To write our first test, we need to first create a test folder, and inside a test folder, let's create an example.spec file. So let's go to the root of the project and let's create a new folder, and let's give it a name of test. And inside the test, let's create a new file and name it example.spec.ts. And we will be using TypeScript because it's supported by default, and common practice is to use TypeScript over the JavaScript while writing tests in Playwright. So let me close the package.json, let me close the Prettier and clear the terminal. First, we need to import test runner and assertions from Playwright test package to get access to all the functions for automating browser and running the tests. So type import test and expect from Playwright test package. Next, to create a test, you simply type test and give it a description. For example, simple basic test. And remember, everything in Playwright is asynchronous, so we have to use async await syntax, and also to pass the argument of page, which gives us an access to all the functions we need to control the browser. So type async, and here we need to pass it the page object. And that's pretty much it. And if you save it, now you can see this is how the typical structure of Playwright test will look like. You're gonna import test and expect, or later you're gonna import something like request and more functionality from Playwright test. You're gonna create a test, you give it some description, and you call an async function, you're gonna pass it a page object, and here you can finally write your test steps, which will actually automate the browser. For this basic test, let's use this example.com website. And to load the website at Playwright, we have something called goTo function. So let's go back to the text editor. Let me delete this. And let's start. So now I want to load a website. So I'm gonna type await page dot, and as you can see, we have autocomplete used by default since we are using TypeScript, and the function is named goTo. And now we need to pass the URL as a string. Just like this. So the construction is simple. You call await page goTo and your URL address. And this will basically tell Playwright, open the browser and load this address. So after the page is loaded, we want to verify that a certain element on the page is visible. In this case, we can use this h1 title, which is here, the example domain. So let me inspect this. And as you can see, it's an element of h1, which contains some text. So with Playwright, you need to store that element into variable using something called locator function. So let me show you. Here, I'm gonna create a variable, and I'm gonna give it a name, for example, page title. And again, I want to call await page dot locator. And now I want to specify the selector. So in this case, it's h1. And after that, I have access to this selector and I can use it in our assertions. So the final step is to call an assertion. So I'm gonna call await expect. As you can see, expect function is the one we have imported from the Playwright test library. And I wanna grab the page title. And as you can see, again, we have an autocomplete for all the possible assertions which you can use. And I want to use to contain text. And let me grab the text, and that's example domain. So let's type it here. And that's it. We have our first test ready. So let's just give it a quick recapitulation. First, we need to load the website using page.goTo function. Then if you want to store any element into variable, you create a variable and you call await page.locator and you're gonna pass it the element as value. Then you have access to that element and you can call an expect function, and in this case we want to verify that the page title contains text of example domain. And last step is to run the test, so let's do it now. To run the test, simply go to the terminal and type npx playwright test and hit enter. And as you can see, the Playwright is running one test using one worker, and our first basic test passed in less than 1 second. But no browser was visible, and that is because by default Playwright is running the tests in headless mode to improve the performance of the tests. So in the next video I'm going to show you how to run tests in headful mode to actually see what's going on under the hood, or how to change the browser from Chrome to, for example, Firefox.